Welcome to Crafty Beach. I have some fun fall projects for you today, but first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, the bell to be notified, and a thumbs up is always appreciated. Okay, today it's pumpkin patch signs. So I found this great sign at my local Goodwill. So this is a thrift flip. I got it for $2.99. It's a really heavy duty wood sign with 3 slats. I love it, and it's a really nice size. So I thought it would make a perfect pumpkin patch sign, like one that you would see if somebody was selling pumpkins from a farm. So I found the best way to cover white writing on a sign is to use white. And I want a couple of the boards to be white anyway, so that will work. It's just going to require a couple coats. I'm using ivory chalk paint by Waverly that I get at Walmart. And you can see about what coverage one coat of the ivory chalk paint did. You can still see through there because there was quite a bit of contrast with the dark gray and the white writing. So I'm just going in there with another coat of that ivory chalk paint, and I'm just going to touch it up until you can't see the writing anymore. I just used a popsicle stick there to kind of get the little paint drippies that were falling down between the two boards because I didn't want that to dry like that. And I'm just using my heat gun to speed up the drying process. Now, my plan for this is I wanted to look kind of coastal, kind of distressed, and I want to add some blue in there. So I think I'm going to make that middle board blue. I love the light blue color for fall. I think it looks really good with orange. I like the contrast. So once I got good coverage of ivory, I'm just going in with some of this painter's tape from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just gonna mark off my boards that I want to leave white so that I can paint that middle board blue. So the color that I use is agave and chalk paint by Waverly, and it is my favorite color. It looks really good with my coastal decor in my house. I love this color. I think it's so pretty. And since I have such a good coverage of white underneath, it doesn't take very much of this to get an even coat of the blue. Now, I'm going to use my Cricut for this, and I am going to make stencils. I love hand-painted signs, especially on the larger signs. I think they look so beautiful and handmade, and so that is what we're going to go for on this pumpkin patch sign. I think I'm going to hang this in my entryway when you first come in. I think it would be a really fun dose of fall. But right now, I still have my Olympic decorations up from a previous video, so the Olympics are still going strong, so I'll have to wait before I hang it. Now, I've got the middle board blue, and I want to distress it. I love distressing things with this Antique Wax by Waverly. And what I do is just kind of go on the edges a little bit and try to keep it all going the same direction. Then I just follow it up with a baby wipe if I get too much on there, and to kind of spread it out, give that board like a weathered look. I love distressing things. I think it looks so nice, and I think it looks very like coastal, like farmhouse. And so I am just going in and distressing all of my boards. I decided to go in and even distress the middle one, the blue one too. Give it that little distressed look and follow that up with just a baby wipe to wipe off the excess. I think it gives the projects such a weathered look. I love it. And I'm just fixing a spot there that I kind of messed up when I was wiping a little too hard, I think, with my baby wipe. And since that middle board is blue, I also want to distress it with the white. I think that looks really good. Bringing in the other color of the board there, and give it a light distress with that, and follow that with a baby wipe as well. And once I get it good and how I like it, I am going to measure those boards so I know exactly how big to cut my stencils. So I got this stencil paper on Amazon. I will post a link. This is the first time that I've used this roll. I really liked it. I like to use stencil paper, well, the stencil vinyl when I make stencils for hand painted signs, because I find that they don't stick to the paint that's already there, so they don't damage it. And I find it really easy to work with. So I am just weeding out the words and the arrows that I want it to say. I had to use my long 2-foot mat with this because this is such a big sign. But I still couldn't get everything on here. So this is 2 of the rows. Pumpkins, fresh farm. It is supposed to say farm fresh. More on that later. And so this is for my 3rd board. It's You Pick Open Daily. And I thought that was cute for things that I can paint on that sign. So I kind of got them all trimmed up where they'll fit on each individual board. And I really love this paper, transfer paper. I get this on Amazon as well too. I have the 6-inch roll and the 12-inch roll, and I love it. It works really well. It doesn't cause paint damage like the plasticky transfer tape. So once I get it on there, I'm just going to use that to attach my stencil to my board. Once I get it on there just the way I like it, I just use my little Cricut scraper to make sure that it's down and pull off the tape. And I'm also going to use some of this painter's tape from the Dollar Tree to paint off any places that aren't covered. When I go over with the stencil brush, sometimes I get a little crazy and I can mess up other areas of the sign. And the top board is white and the bottom board is white. So I'm going to use the same color to paint both of those. So I'm going to go ahead and put the You Pick Open Daily stencil on the bottom and kind of do both of those at the same time. Now I'm using my little Cricut scraper to make sure that it's good and down because I don't want any bleeding underneath the stencil. And again, I'm just using my painter's tape to tape that off so I don't make a big mess. Now I'm going to use that Antique Wax by Waverly. I didn't know if this would really work. I really wanted it to look like it was like a wood sign underneath the painting, and so I couldn't really stain the wood on the sign because it was a painted sign, so this is kind of a reverse wood effect. And I'm just using my little stencil foam brush from the Dollar Tree. Once I get it on there, I just drag it from side to side to give me brush strokes, and it gives that wood grain effect. But I'm having to be very careful because I don't want to make that stain go underneath the stencils. So just a swipe, swipe, swipe once I get good coverage on the letters. And this worked really well. I didn't know if this effect would work at all. It was totally an experiment, and I'm so glad I tried it because I really like how it looks. And I'm gonna do the You Pick Open Daily on the bottom, the same exact way with the Antique Wax by Waverly. Just make sure everything has good coverage before I do that drag to get that nice wood grain finish. And that is all there is to the top and the bottom signs there as far as hand painting those. And this stuff dries pretty fast, but I'm trying to give it a little bit of a speed up with my heat gun. And I'm going to remove my tape. And the satisfying part is always pulling off the stencils, right? So once you get it off, then you just can use your little weeder to weed off the middle pieces. And I do have all of the fonts that I used for Cricut for all of the signs today, and I will post it in my video link description, all of the fonts that I used, because I used several different ones today. And again, I'm just using my weeder to pull out the little extra pieces in the cursive letters. Trust me, I know it says Fresh Farm and I make it all the way to the end. Finish the project, still don't know, for real. I was just working, not reading what I was putting down at all, but lesson learned. I will read my stencils from now on because that's supposed to say Farm Fresh. Okay, so this is the pumpkins. I wanted this font to be really bold and eye-catching, and I'm going to put that on the second row there. And I'm using that paper transfer paper again, and I'm trying to kind of fold it to see where the ends are. I'm trying to get it on there. I made it about as big as it possibly could for that board. And there we go, we have pumpkins. So I'm just gonna scrape that down and make sure that's good and attached. And I am gonna paint that in, I think it's called Pumpkin, the color Chalk Paint by Waverly. It's a nice orange color. I really like it for fall. And I really like it together with that agave color. So those are pretty big letters. So I'm just scraping it down all around all the sides to make sure they're good and down. And then again, I'm using some painter's tape to protect my surface so that I don't make a huge mess here when I go in with that pumpkin color. And I'm using one of those stencil foam brushes from the Dollar Tree and just stippling all that paint on. I want to have really good coverage. I'm painting that orange over that blue. So I found that I needed like a lot of paint to make that really nice and bright. I really want that to stick out against the blue sign. Once I get it on there, I am drying, and if I see any blue showing through, I'm just going back in and adding a little bit more paint to try to get a solid coat. And removing my painter's tape. And my stencils. I really like how that turned out. I think it looks really pretty. And just using my weeder to pull out the inside pieces of my letters. And giving that a quick dry. I was thinking, what can I put like on the bottom sides? And I have these wood pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. They have them this year, and these little wood clips from the Dollar Tree. Now, I like both of them. I like the big one and I like the small one, so I decided to just go ahead and use both. But the little ones had little, I'm kind of off angle there. They had little clothespins on the back, so I'm just popping those off. And then I'm gonna go in with that same pumpkin chalk paint by Waverly and paint those all over. The really good thing about the small ones is that they have the black ink on them, like with the, you can see the shape of the pumpkin. And so I'm gonna use that with my green paint pen. I picked up these paint pens on Amazon and they are fantastic. I'll post a link to those as well. And they have great colors. I'm using the green one for the leaves and my brown one for the stem. And then I'm gonna use that to put some lines on my big pumpkin. And I ended up not liking that. I thought it was a little too bright. I'm going in and coloring in the stem. I found that I thought that those lines were a little too straight and not really what I was going for. So I'm trying to go over it with some more pumpkin to make that like a little less detailed. I was trying to make it how I like it, and then I'm just like, never mind. I'll just do the other side. So this time, instead of a paint pen, I just used an ink pen. And the lines were way more faded, and I was more flexible from being able to get that curve in there. So then I'm just using the paint pen for the stem. And I like how that turned out better. So I'm ready to attach. I'm just gonna use wood glue to attach my 3 small pumpkins down in this corner. Now, when I pulled the clothespin off the back of them, it did split the wood a little bit, but it's okay. All the damage is on the back. You can't really tell. But they are super cute. I'm so glad that the Dollar Tree is finally getting these fall things in. And some of the stores have a great selection of fall stuff. I'm so excited. And then I'm gonna put the large one over on this side. I'm just gonna use a combination of hot glue and wood glue on that side and slap that on the side. And those dry pretty good. I'm trying to decide what else it needs. Then the problem. I read it. It said Fresh Farm. I wanted it to say Farm Fresh Pumpkins. I don't know why. I can't even blame it on my Cricut. I typed it in that way. And then I didn't notice it. Nobody noticed it. My son didn't notice it. My husband didn't notice it. Nobody noticed it. I was so mad. So what I did is just had to go in and cover that with some more ivory chalk paint. Distress it with the antique wax again. Make the stencil again. This time it says Farm Fresh, not Fresh Farm. Oh my gosh, I will read my stencils from now on. I was so mad. This was so much extra work, and my TV show was coming on. So I was like, I was not very happy. But I fixed it, and I'm happy with it now. I almost left it, for real, but I knew it would drive me crazy. So there we go, Farm Fresh Pumpkins. And I always seem to need a little bit more distressing, right? So I'm using some of that ivory chalk paint and one of those chunky brushes, and I am distressing all of the orange parts of the sign too, to kind of make those look weathered and blend in. And we're done with our pumpkin patch sign. I love that sign. It turned out so good, even though it caused me some trouble. And I'm just following that up with a baby white. And I think that is perfect. I found this little raffia bow. I think I took it off of another fall project that I worked on recently, and I thought it would be really cute on the large pumpkin. So I just attached that with a little hot glue, and it covers up that little whole area for the top of the ornament. It gives it a little fun feel. Just a simple raffia bow. Okay, project number 2. I'm going to use this wood puzzle from the Dollar Tree and one of those trucks with the pumpkins in the back from Dollar Tree as well. Just got that there the other day. Now, you might look at these little child puzzles at the Dollar Tree and think that I couldn't make anything with that. But surprise, you can. The back of them is made out of wood. So you have to like really look for wood when you're at the Dollar Tree, because it can be elusive, but it can be hiding right in front of your face, like this, the back of the sign. There's a square one too that is smaller, that has like the shapes in it. And I'm just using my trick of using some of that contact paper from the Dollar Tree, covering the back of that. That's going to be the back of my project, because I want to use that beautiful wood that's on the back. And just a sanding block from the Dollar Tree to cut the excess vinyl perfectly around the edges. And that will give me a clean back to my pumpkin patch sign. I really like it when my projects look more professional. Now, that's what I'm kind of thinking, putting the truck on the front. It's a little smaller than I would normally use, but I think it's going to work. Now, I love the wood. I want to bring it out. So I'm using some of this antique wax by Waverly to stain it, and look how beautiful that wood is. This stuff works great. One coat is all it's going to take, and it dries really quickly too. I want to go around and do the edges in case that you can see them when I hang this sign up. And basically that's all there is to that staining process. I'm just going to follow that up with a paper towel to like remove any of the excess antique wax. And now we're ready to work on our little truck. Now normally it's a little red truck, sometimes it's a little blue truck, but I decided I'm going to make this one ivory. I really want it to pop against that wood sign and stand out, so I thought white would be the color that would stand out the most. So I'm just going over the entire little wood truck with this ivory chalk paint. And I did tape off the load there so that I didn't mess that up. I kind of want to do those in a different finish. And there was holes on the top, the pumpkin and the truck there where you could hang it. And I just filled them in with some of that spackle from the Dollar Tree. And I am just going all over this with white, or the ivory. I was trying to decide if I was going to paint like the tires black, but I decided to make this project very simple. And so I'm going to leave it all the same color. Now I'm going to like try to fill in between the little slats of the bed there with some more of that ivory paint and just a small paintbrush. to get some fine detail work in there. Then I'm going to use that Antique Wax by Waverly to stain the wood part of the boards for the back of the truck. And when I picture those boards, I picture those looking like wood, and so I think that looks really pretty like that. And I'm just using a small brush, trying not to mess up my white truck too much, but no big deal if I do. I can always touch it up just a little bit. And what I'm going to do with the pumpkins is I'm going to paint those in the color pumpkin. Chalk paint by Waverly. I'm just going to go in here with my foam brush to where I can get it without messing up the wood part of the sign there. And then I'm just going to go back in with a smaller brush so I can get a little closer, but I don't really have to tape that part off. So I'm just carefully finishing off the bottom of our pumpkins there. And I really wanted the pumpkins to be orange, their regular color. I thought that would be a nice burst of color on this brown and now white sign. So I'm just touching everything up. There really isn't any detail on there, like writing-wise. There's two fenders that stick out of the side for the wheel bearings and a little cut in the door. And this is what I'm thinking, like I can attach it to the front of our sign. And I'm just gonna measure the top and see exactly how much room I have to work with. I can do like a word across the top and then a word on the left, I think. So I'm using some of this vinyl, Cricut vinyl from the Dollar Tree. And look, I have a new toy. This is called a Cricut Bright Pad, I think. I picked it up at Target the other day. And I thought it would be helpful because I have trouble weeding the white on white from Dollar Tree. It's very hard to see. And sometimes I'll pull off the letters, and I found this did help. I did have to dim my lights here so that it could have the desired effect of lighting that up for me so I know exactly where to weed. It's a fun toy. I think they're pretty new. I saw it at Target, and I was like, oh, I need that. That's a new toy. And so I wanted to try that out for sure. Using some of that 6-inch paper tape that I love. And I'm just going to kind of line them up over on the left and use that one sheet to put all of the vinyl on. This time I'm not doing a stencil. Instead of hand painting it, I'm actually using the vinyl. It's a small sign. I think it's going to be fine. And again, I do have the fonts that I used on Cricut Design Space to make the pumpkin patch open daily, and I will post those in the description of this video. I just used my scraper to make sure that they're all down. I found that the vinyl and the antique wax didn't like each other a lot, but if I'm careful and take my time, I can get them attached and keep them straight. And I just put pumpkin patch open daily. Just a quick, simple pumpkin patch sign. And whenever I use vinyl on signs, I like to use that sanding block from the Dollar Tree to smooth that down and make that kind of take on the surface. But I also don't want the vinyl to come off, and so I'm just using one coat of that matte Mod Podge and then drying that right away to help seal down that vinyl a little bit more because I don't want it to peel off. And now we are about ready to attach the truck to the sign. I'm just touching up a few areas. But first, I thought it would be easier to go ahead and put a hanger on there. So I'm just going to use some twine from the Dollar Tree and some hot glue. I like to use my ruler when I put twine on the back for signs. That way I can make sure that it's even so that the sign will hang even. Now, once I got those hot glued on, I wasn't too sure they were attached well because of the contact paper on the back of the sign. So I go in with just a little bit of burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree and cut a little bit of burlap and hot glue that on top to further secure that rope hanger on there. And I think that helped a little bit. And now I can flip it back over and we are ready to attach our little white truck. So I'm going to use a combination of hot glue and wood glue to attach this to our pumpkin patch sign. And just holding that down for a few seconds until it starts to dry. Now, it was a little too plain, so I'm going in with my chunky brush and some agave, and I'm slightly weathering just the hubcaps and the fenders of my truck, just to bring in a very light blue distressing to try to add a little bit of color to it. And I was kind of trying to decide, it just seemed a little plain, and so I thought that maybe a little distressing could give it a little bit more detail. Then I decided to distress the pumpkins as well, so I am just distressing those with a little bit of ivory chalk paint. I thought I was done with the sign, but I kept looking at it and it kept looking plain to me, so I'm going to try to distress it more. So I'm going to use some of that Antique Wax by Waverly and try to distress my pumpkin patch open daily letters a little bit to make those look a little bit more weathered, a little bit more my vibe. I'm going to go in and distress my pumpkins with it as well. And then I'm going to go in and distress all of the white parts of my truck. And I really like the effect it gave it. It gave it like an aged effect. And it's just not so stark and plain. I just don't like plain. I like that detail. So I'm going around all the edges that I can find on my truck, trying to bring those out, and then just using a baby wipe to smooth that out a little bit. Then I also go in and distress my tires, kind of making those like a more of a brownish color instead of that stark ivory. Now I'm leaving those blue parts that I did distress earlier, and I'm just distressing the white part of the truck and those vinyl letters. I did have a little trouble distressing the vinyl letters, but it did distress them just a little bit. I just had to try a couple times. So I'm trying to get like one simple stroke across all the letters, and then just touching that up with a little bit of a towel. Then I got this great pumpkin ribbon at Dollar Tree today, and I thought that would be a fun addition. So I'm just going to cut off a little piece. It's burlap with pumpkins, and I'm going to put it right there, like on the bed of the truck, just to bring in a different texture. I just felt that the sign was a little plain, and I just wanted it to be a little bit extra. Then I decided I wanted something on the door. I thought about painting a word on there, but I didn't trust myself that I could do it. And so I'm trying out some of these pumpkin stickers that I picked up at the Dollar Tree as well. I tried blue, and then I'm like, no, I really want it to be orange because the pumpkins on the sign are orange. And just do a little orange, like a little picture on the door of our truck. Just using a little bit of hot glue to attach that pumpkin ribbon. And I think that gives it a little fun country detail to our little pumpkin patch sign. And I really like the little orange pumpkin sticker as well, making sure that's my favorite. And then I'm going to go in with that ivory chalk paint and a chunky brush and just distress that little pumpkin sticker to kind of make it go more with the truck like it is painted on the door of our little truck. Then I had just thought it was still too plain, so I'm just going to go in and distress the stained wood too with that ivory chalk paint, which just would have been way easier to do without attaching the truck and everything on there first. But lesson learned. I like it to look rustic and coastal, and that gave it the like effect that I was wanting. And that is the last step in this pumpkin patch DIY sign using things from the Dollar Tree. Okay, last but not least, this is going to be a black and white pumpkin patch sign. And I'm using one of these chalkboards from the Dollar Tree. These things are really easy to find, and I love them. Unlike most Dollar Tree signs that are super thin and warped, this one is really thick and strong, and I love making signs with these. So if you see them, pick them up. Love them. Now I want my sign to be black, and so I'm going to use the back of that sign, which is black. And I just used some heat, my little spatula, to get that off, but there was still adhesive. So I'm also having to use Goo Gone and a scraper to try to get that off. Now, I like the back of my signs to be finished, and so I'm using some of that wood contact paper from the Dollar Tree. And don't do this. And then I'm just using that for the back of my sign so that it will be finished. And I can use that solid black for my pumpkin patch sign. So just using my sanding block to cut off the extra vinyl. I love doing it like this. It gives you a perfect cut and makes the back of your projects look super nice. Now, I want to use that white pumpkin that you see there. I just picked that up at Dollar Tree the other day, and they had them with monograms. And so I got one with T, and it's black on there. So I think that's going to look really good. I can do a white and black sign. So I went on my Cricut again, and I cut out "Welcome to our patch" on my Cricut, and I will post the link to these fonts as well. Welcome and patch were the same font, and then "to ours" was the different. And instead of saying "welcome to our pumpkin patch," I'm going to put the pumpkin in there. So "welcome to our pumpkin patch." So I use my bright pad, and now I'm using that paper, transfer paper. And I am going to make sure that's attached, cut off the words, because I'm going to have patch on the bottom of the sign. And I'm ready to start attaching. You can still see that, you know, some of the adhesive down there where it was. It's really not there anymore, but it does kind of look like it's there. But once I get everything on here, you can't tell. So I am carefully attaching that vinyl to the back of our little chalkboard. And I thought the white looked good on the black. Nice contrast. Kind of made it look like a fancy chalkboard. And then I'm going to put the word "patch" down here on the bottom so that I will have room for the little pumpkin in the middle. I did kind of put it on there crooked, and it wasn't really attached that well. So I'm just trying to peel those up and straighten those out a little bit so it looks a little bit better. And there's nothing I have to do to this pumpkin. It is ready to go. It's got a cute bow on it and everything. It's a nice, chunky, thick piece of wood. And first I thought I wanted a little detail. So I'm going to use one of my white paint pens. And I'm trying to use a ruler to do a straight line, like to do a border around the sign. And I thought the ruler trick would work. So I'm going to try it again here in my white paint pen. And it just kept bleeding underneath the ruler. I don't know if it was my ruler or what. So I just wipe all that off, and I'm like, okay, I can try to draw a straight line. And it really wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. These paint pens are awesome. I will post a link to these. I love them. And I'm just using it like on the wide edge. And I found that if I just pulled the line straight to me, it was pretty easy to do a straight line. And I go over it a couple of times because I'm doing that white on black, and I want it to be a sharp contrast. And I decided to do a little detail there around like where my hangers would be to give it a little bit more flair. Just speeding up the drying process there. And I'm going to go in and just go over it again because I really want that to be crisp and white like my letters. And it's okay that my lines aren't perfectly straight. It kind of makes it look more handmade. So I'm just touching that up until I think it looks pretty good. The corners were a little sketchy, so I'm just filling those in. And that is going to be our "Welcome to our Pumpkin Patch" sign. Basically, all I'm going to need to do now, once I get that white enough, is attach that wood pumpkin to the front. And I really wanted that to look really crisp, so I did go over it with another coat. Then I'm just going to use wood glue and a little bit of hot glue to attach that wooden sign to our sign. and it's welcome to our pumpkin patch with our monogram on there for tea. This is a different look than I normally do for my house, but I really like it. It's farmhouse. I like the black and white. I'm just going to use that original rope. I just poked some holes through my vinyl in the back, and that was on there, and I am just trying to string that through with my weeder. And I like to do it with the knots in the front. I find that it hangs flatter against my walls or surfaces. And I can't get that to go through, so I'm just going to use a little bit of tape to tape off the end of that rope where it's kind of frayed to get it to go through that hole and tie it. And that's all there is to it. I decided my tea was crooked too, so I fixed that, and it's welcome to our patch. Final reveal time. Okay, farm fresh pumpkins, not fresh farm pumpkins. You pick, open daily. I just have this propped up because, again, I haven't got a chance to hang this, but I think I'm going to put this in my entryway area because it is big and it's beautiful, and I did all this with a thrift flip, a $2.99 sign using some supplies from the Dollar Tree. Okay, this is our smaller pumpkin patch sign. Open daily with our little white truck and a load of pumpkins in the back. This was made out of that puzzle from the Dollar Tree, and I think it looks really cute and farmhouse. And then here is our welcome to our pumpkin patch sign, black and white, using one of those chalkboards from the Dollar Tree and one of those wooden pumpkins available at the Dollar Tree. And I love how that one turned out as well. It's totally a different vibe than the other two, but it might match your decorating style. I hope you liked these pumpkin patch ideas for signs that you can make for your house. And if you would, I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe. Until next time, bye.